One of the things that I think are most important at the moment that we need to address, I mean, there's many things going on in the world. Of course, there's all these wars going on where innocent men, women, and children are being murdered by people who pay their taxes, I suppose, really and truly, because we pay our taxes to governments and then they decide, not us, the people, but they decide that what they're going to do and how they're going to help fund these things or send armaments overseas and help the destruction of ordinary everyday people who've decided not to be in a war or not to do anything to do with it. It's none of their business. And yet they seem to be the ones at the end of the bullet or the bombs or whatever it is, the buildings tumbling around them. There are many things. Other things, of course, we've got the digital IDs, the CBDCs, the financial stuff. We've seen how we're being taxed to the hilt, left, right, and centre, and all of that. But the thing that I think is right at the nub of all of this that we ought to be calling out, and I have done it many times, and many more people will be continuing to do this, is firstly the myth. Absolute myth, the lie, the perpetual lie that is being put to everybody of climate change, of the fact that this is a man-made thing, man-made global warming. It's all our fault by going around and buying stuff and trying to have a decent life. Yes, it's all our fault. We're farting, or at least the cows are, and we're producing CO2. We're actually exhaling CO2 into the atmosphere. And the gas of life is the main cause. I mean, this lie has been going on for some time, and still people are asleep to the fact that this nonsense is being put over to them when it's a complete and utter fabrication. And yet it goes on. The governments are beheld to carry out all their nonsense of green energy stuff and the net zero agenda and all of that. But worse than that is what they're doing to the skies. Because the dimming of the sky, the seeding of whatever it is they're shoving up into the cloud to block out the sun has been going on for too long. And I don't know whether you've noticed it where you are, but we managed to get perhaps one day of sunshine every week or perhaps every 2 weeks. Obviously, that's when the aeroplanes are being serviced or the pilots are having a day off. Perhaps they're having a day in the sunshine, because when they're not flying, that's when the sun comes out. And if you've noticed also that when you get these overcast days, these unusual and very strange and very regular overcast days that we're getting at the moment, have you noticed how it's very cold? Extreme. I mean, the temperature drops are extreme. When here we are in May, we went out the other day to my little farm to do some farming in the sunshine on the Sunday, beautifully hot, up in the 20s, 24, something like that degrees centigrade. And then today, it'll be down in, I don't know, 13, 14, very cold, overcast. And I don't know what this stuff, this grey stuff they're putting into the sky, but it's making people's vibrations down and low, and it's making people miserable. You're having to put on the central heating more, you're spending more fuel, and of course, as a result of all of that, you're in their game. You're creating more global warming. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. And of course, if you're thinking that electricity is going to be the saviour of everything, think again if you're using solar panels. Because if you have solar panels on all those farms, and yet they're dimming the sky, how are those solar panels actually supposed to generate any electricity? Now, you might think, I know what I'll do. I'll write to my MP. I'll tell them and complain and moan and groan and say, oi, you shouldn't be doing this. And I'll point out the facts. And they're bound to listen to me, because isn't that how democracy is supposed to work? Isn't it that we, the people, come up with the ideas and tell the government how we want them, our servants, to run the country? Is that not how it's supposed to be? So we go to our MP, our representative of the people, and say, hey, by the way, this is what we'd like. And the MP goes, yes, of course, I will go to the government and tell them, because they are there to run the business of looking after the country to your wishes. That's what it's supposed to be. But I'm not sure that is what we actually get. So here's an MP, here's a letter rather to an MP, and see what you make of this. This is from one of my correspondents called Peter. Sorry, he's not called Peter. He is called Paul. I've got Peter and Paul on the show today. So let's have a look at this email first of all, if I can bring it up on the screen here. So this is the email first to me. It says, Richard, I do hope you're well on this cloudy day. Yes, I'm well, thanks very much, except for the cold and cloud and miserable nature of it. Please see my email to Sir Peter Bottomley, MP, and his response. I wonder if he has been lied to and therefore believes what he has written back to me. So then, first of all, we see the letter to the MP, Peter Bottomley, Sir Peter Bottomley, I should say. Sir, because he is a servant of ours. Dear Peter, I'm writing to you to advise you that I have signed the petition titled Make All Forms of Geoengineering Affecting the Environment Illegal. The petition link can be found below. And there it is. I'll put that in the description. I'm not sure it'll make the blind bit of difference to them, but, it's always worth a go. For a long time now, our skies and weather have been tampered with by people and organisations who we the people did not consent to undertake. As you may have noticed, our weather has been out of character with what we would typically expect this time of year. We are seeing clouds that are not natural. Please see some samples below. And in it, he'd sent some pictures of the stuff that we'd already got so used to seeing. Please also see some of the consequences of geoengineering going wrong. And we've got a link there. I'll go to that link so that you can see exactly what he's talking about. So here it is, slightly off the screen. Let me just correct that a little bit. There we go. Get that a little bit more focused. So this is, hang on a minute. We're all going a bit wrong here, a bit pear-shaped in the world of the Vobes. So here's the weather experiment that really flooded Dubai, yes? And it talks about the reckless experiment in Earth's atmosphere causing a desert metropolis to flood. That was the story last week when more than a year's worth of rain fell on the Arabian Peninsula, one of the world's driest regions. Desert cities like Dubai and the United Arab Emirates suffered floods and submerged motorways and airport runways. And we can see all of that. And here we go. Look, these clouds. Cloud seeding works, but not very well. Well, it does work, it seems to them. And it says, the experiment on our lives, a hotter atmosphere holds more moisture, which can fall as rain. Although last week the deluge was unusual, the Arabian Peninsula does tend to receive more of its precipitation in heavy bursts than steady showers. The latest assessment by the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change, that's the IPCC, did not predict future rainfall trends for the region, but did say global heating is expected to make such violent downpours and more frequent than severe. So they're sort of getting out of it by saying, oh, yeah. But this is what's going on when they start mucking about with the weather. And nobody wants to see that, do they? Let's go back to the email if I can re-find it. So we've got here's the thing that he sent to Sir Peter Bottomley. So he says, Peter, please can I ask you to take this subject seriously and not dismiss it out of hand? I'm genuinely concerned for the well-being of our country and indeed the world at large. Kind regards from Paul. And then we get the reply from Sir Peter Bottomley. And this is the MP, and this is what he's saying. Dear Peter, thank you for contacting me about chemtrails, defined as aerial spraying from aircraft. I can reassure you that the Department of Transport is not aware of any other matter or aerosol being ejected from aircraft other than normal exhaust products. Aircraft can be observed sometimes leaving trails in the air known as contrails. However, these are simply the warm, moist exhaust from the aircraft mixing with cold, drier ambient air, thus producing ice crystal clouds. I understand that some other countries have, on occasions, used weather modification techniques, such as cloud seeding, which causes precipitation by introducing substances into cumulus clouds that cause condensation. However, these techniques are generally aimed at promoting rainfall and should not be considered geoengineering, projects used for the purpose of trying to minimise the human impacts of climate change. The UK does not use cloud seeding or deploy geoengineering within the aerospace sector. Thank you again for contacting me about this important issue. You raise important points and I will consider them going forward. Sir Peter Bottomley, MP. And the question is, will he? Will he, or will he just dismiss it and say, no, there's no problem, it's just contrails? I wonder if, Sir Peter Bottomley, you ever actually look up and see how down here on the south coast of the UK, of England, where I live, they often, you'll see them mowing the lawn of the Sky, these stripes. And then occasionally, they're playing noughts and crosses. They're seeding something into the sky, and then another lot come along and put another something in, and it's a bit like Araldite. I don't know if you've used that glue where you put in one compound and then you put in the second compound. The second one is the catalyst. You mix them up, and then it causes something. From my understanding, that seems to be what goes on. They put one compound in, they put another, and the two react, and then you get this very thick cloud that's going in. Now, I don't know whether they have to seed one so many hours and let it disperse, and then seed the second one, but it can be incredibly rapid, and we've seen it. You only have to look up. If anyone's got a time-lapse camera, stick them up in the sky when you first see them going, and record in time-lapse, speed it up. Send me the footage and we'll play it into the show. Send me the footage. Wherever you are in the world, send me the footage, time-lapse it. The GoPros are quite good for that sort of thing. As soon as you start seeing the stripes, set them up and get the time-lapse in, and we'll show it. We'll show the government what's going on. I mean, they know what's going on. The government lie about everything. They continue the myth of man-made global warming. We know it's a complete load of old hogwash. Here, for example, sent to me was a web page from 2003, it says here. And again, slightly off the screen, look at that terrible preparation, Vobes. White House floats the idea of blocking out the sun. This was from July the 6th, 2023. And it says, for years, advocates have refused to consider the possibility that geoengineering to slow climate change could be an option on the table. But we may be at the point where its use is inevitable. The fact that this has been going on since the 1940s is irrelevant. They're sort of slowly planting the seed into our minds that this is what they may need to do. So it says here, last week the US government tiptoed a little closer to the world of science fiction. In a 44-page report, it seemed at pains to say it was not its own idea. The White House laid out a 5-year research plan to develop and to explore the development and eventual deployment of solar radiation management, or SRM technology, the idea of blocking out the sun to slow down climate change. And you can see that they are slowly now, because people are realizing what's going on and are thinking, hang on a minute, we don't want any of this, thank you very much indeed. They're now sort of going, oh yeah, but climate change is such a disastrous thing. We've got to do something, even though they've been manipulating the weather and using that place HAARP, the HAARP, place that also adds sort of energy weapon technology to sort of create all sorts of nasty things across the world. Instant snow, great rain whenever you want it, storms and winds and things that just emulate from apparently nowhere. We know this technology is going on. We shouldn't put up with it. We need to just scream this from the highest mountain and tell them we don't want it. It has to stop. This is unusual weather. It's a bit like the old medical intervention that they had. They can't hide the bodies. People are dropping down like flies. You can't hide the skies. The more we can get people to look up and see what's going on, the chances are we might be able to stay, don't do it. But point out the anomalies of it. Point out the fact that, well, if you dim the sky, how are we supposed to get electricity from our solar panels? The whole lot, the whole thing is a complete farce, and we shouldn't have any of it. Thank you for watching. Send me in your time-lapse photography. That would be grand. richard@vobes.com is the email address, and we'll play it on the show, and we'll show these, I nearly swore then, we'll show these people exactly what's going on.